Here we are for part 3. The reason I'm doing this is I think I might have not been clear enough in a couple of the items that we've been going over. So I wanted to take a little bit of time tonight and maybe do a last video, depending on how many things I have left to clarify after this one. Before I dive into that, I just want to thank you all for the engagement you've been giving me on these. It's gratifying and humbling. I wasn't sure that anyone would be interested. So thank you for that. And I'm looking forward as this whole process moves on next year and continuing to give my thoughts and commentary. Let's move on to some graphs because I'm a network guy. We love graphs. It's best if I give the standard disclaimer at this point. I have no inside information and I'm just presenting the theory of what is being done. This should not be taken as an assertion that this is the structure being used. I'm laying this out to give a framework for the discussion. In the last video, I used this graph as a starting point, and I believe it's still valid. If you recall, the light green bound objects define the area of space related to each item. Rather than blend the location with the relationship, which was the mistake I made in part 2, I'd like to look at them as parallel sets of information. This is what the plot might look like in 3D space. Ignore the labels, they can be anything at all. Here, we have 3 objects with positions in space represented by this plot. For the purpose of this conversation, let's define the area of this plot as being managed by one processor server, and the 3 objects within it are ships in space. When a ship reaches the edge of this area, a handoff will happen that transitions ownership of that object to the server that controls the new section of space. As we saw in the presentation at CitizenCon, there's a relationship built between the ship and the server. What we don't know is where they are planning to stop the physicalized world. I'm not sure it matters, but I wanted to point out that this connection could be a physical one, X ship is contained by X object, or it could be a logical one. X ship is located in space, run by the server managing Microtech. A bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm an engineer at heart. These are the questions I lose sleep over. Regardless of how it's implemented, those are the 2 factors. What is my physical location, and where is that location in space? When it moves from one to the other isn't something we know, or how SIG is going about solving that. I'd like to take another swing at explaining the idea of localization, or as I called it in the last video, abstraction. It was mentioned in a comment that this is crucial, and upon rewatching my videos, I see that I didn't draw that out clearly enough. Pretend for a moment that my character, Tibio, is in the orange ship, and someone else is in the blue ship. Nothing I do in my ship matters to the other ship until it changes something in their frame of reference. So if I get up from the helm and wander around, grab a drink, play pool, whatever, the server doesn't need to update them about that. However, if I change course, ping them, fire a weapon, or explode for some other reason, they'll get an update, as they would need to know about that. This abstraction is how efficiency is gained. So while it may take 4 servers to give life to Microtech City, it may take only 1 to do a station or a moon, and 1 server could run a massive amount of empty space unless there was a single huge battle or perhaps multiple smaller ones. This is critical, as a large battle will cause a huge amount of communication between the server, the players, and the persistent entity system. The latter because there's likely to be a lot of junk floating around as people beat on one another. The initial concern is going to be ensuring that each server has enough horsepower to deal with the load. How many players and NPCs are under its control and what they're doing will greatly impact this. Secondly, managing the network communication is another factor. Obviously, I have no idea where the bottlenecks they have to address will be, nor do I know what method they are using for server-to-server communication, but it's one of the areas we have to keep an eye on. The final area of concern is how they will address more latency-intensive communications. Again, I was reminded of this in a comment, which was fantastic. If all the servers for region aren't located in the same metro area, then handing off information between them is going to be much more costly. For instance, within a data center, the transmission time is sub 1 millisecond, meaning that the work to send and then receive the information takes a larger percentage of the total time than the actual transmission of it. However, if the servers are on the east and west coast, then it takes about 100 milliseconds to transit between them, making the latency the challenge rather than the process to send or receive the data on the endpoints. I've worked in networking for about 30 years. For the last 13, I've been a member of a group creating software to manage networks. When I'm commenting on CIG, I'm doing it as a member of the industry, and in no way am I trying to be insulting or demeaning. I've not said anything about CIG that hasn't been said at times about the companies and products I've worked on. Sometimes justified, sometimes not. I know it's hard, but I think it's only right to comment on the good and the bad. That said, the good far outweighs the bad, or I wouldn't be making these videos, or saying that they may just be creating the next iPhone moment. Thanks for allowing me to get that out there. I appreciate all the comments and want to thank you all for taking the time to watch these videos. If you've enjoyed them, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you'd like to hear more.